Welcome to the Contract Bank. I am business attorney Roxanne Smithers. This video, we are going to be discussing the Master Application Development Agreement. This agreement is designed for app developers and lays out the terms for your relationship with your clients. This agreement is set up as a master agreement so that if you have ongoing projects and ongoing work with the same clients or same group of clients, you don't have to negotiate a new contract or have the client sign a new contract every time they come to you for services. You can simply issue what we've designed in here as a scope of work that will detail the specifics of that project that the client wants you to work on. And that scope of work will be subject to these master terms. And so let's dig into this agreement so that you'll have a bit of an understanding of this Master Application Development Agreement. So the first section of this agreement is the scope of services. And this is going to provide some initial preliminary information about the services that you're going to provide. The specifics of that information, as we stated earlier, will be in that scope of work. And you can have multiple scopes of work that are issued under this master agreement. The next section covers fees and expenses. Again, it's going to provide some preliminary information about your rights to be paid for your services, as well as any cost or expenses that you'll be reimbursed for above and beyond your fees. That may include specific equipment, software, subscriptions to other applications or services or content that the client is requiring you to use when developing their app. You can include that in your full pricing, or you can have that listed as an expense that the client either pays or reimburses you for. Section 3 deals with the client's obligation to provide you with the necessary information, content, and materials for you to develop their app. And it also makes it clear that the client is responsible for making sure that the content and materials that they provide are free and clear for them to use. They have any necessary intellectual property rights, any licenses or authorizations that are needed. Section 4 covers changes to that scope of work. We've often encountered in the service industry scope creep. And this can be a particular problem if you're providing services on a flat fee. So you want to make sure that if the client decides that they want to expand the type of work that you're doing, the details of the app, the timeline, the intricacy of that app, that you make sure that you issue a change to that scope of work that gives you either additional resources, additional time, or additional compensation for that increase in the scope. Section 5 covers your services and your responsibilities. It also details how you will receive and accept and utilize client input and client information, and how any delays in that client input or client information will impact your services and your responsibilities. Section 6 then in turn covers the responsibilities of the client to provide that input, to comply with any laws with regards to that input, and to make sure that they are giving you what you need in order to perform your services. Section 7 covers the process for testing and acceptance of your deliverables, lays out a timeline for the client to test them, lays out a timeline for the client to provide any issues, concerns, corrections that need to be made, and then a timeline for that client to ultimately accept those changes. Section 8 covers when and how you will deliver the documentation for the application, whether that's content files, scripting and coding, the code, source code, and other documentation or deliverables that will be related to the services that you are providing, when those will be available to the client, and how long you will keep backups of those items. Section 9 covers the support period, the time in which that you will continue to assist the client, make any patches, any corrections, any updates to the application once the final product is provided to the client. Section 10 covers intellectual property rights. It makes it clear that you hold the ownership of the content and the deliverables until you are paid in full for those, at which point you will then transfer to the client either the property rights or licensing rights. It also makes clear that any information that you developed or utilized that you own prior to the project will remain your property. And we titled that Developer Background IP, making it clear that you will retain ownership of those items. Section 11 covers any representations and warranties from you regarding the quality of your work, the timeline for your work, and for your services. And it also provides any representations and warranties for the content that the client provides and information that the client provides to you. Section 12 makes it clear that both parties may be receiving confidential information from the other party and that you're each agreeing to keep that information confidential. Section 13 limits your client's ability to solicit or hire your employees, independent contractors, vendors, or staff away from you to provide services to that client directly. Section 14 details the duration of this agreement or the term, and it also details how either party can terminate the agreement, the process to do that, what you'll be paid, as well as what happens if one party or the other terminates the master agreement while you still have a pending scope of work. Section 15 is a limitation of liability. We have put two types of caps on your damages: a dollar amount on the amount that you could be liable for if you cause an injury or loss to the client, as well as the type of damages for which you may be liable. Section 16 covers the indemnification. Both parties are agreeing that if one or the other party causes damage or injury based upon their actions, that they will be responsible for those damages or those injuries. For example, if the client content that is provided to you violates a trademark, violates a copyright, or violates a patent, and a claim is brought against you for utilizing that information, your client will be responsible for either reimbursing you for the cost of dealing with that claim or taking over that claim and defending you in that claim. Sections 17 and 18 deal with the relationship between the parties. You are an independent contractor and not an employee of your client. This means that you are free to work with other clients and your client is free to work with other web developers on other projects. This means that you are free to work with other clients and your client is free to work with other app developers on other projects. This is not an exclusive relationship. Section 19 and 20 cover the governing law for this agreement, as well as the process for handling any disputes. The parties have the opportunity to negotiate a resolution, mediate a resolution, and if all else fails, to arbitrate their claims. Sections 22 and 23 are a roadmap for a judge, jury, or arbitrator to apply the terms of this agreement to your dispute. Section 24 makes it clear that the full nature of the relationship between the parties is detailed in this agreement, and that if the parties want to make any modifications to the nature of that relationship, they must both agree and it must be done in writing. At the end of the agreement, you will find your statement of work. This document can be replicated and utilized with the client over and over again to provide the specific details for each individual project that you are working on. So it'll detail information that's necessary about the app, the format, text that will be provided, graphics that will be provided, any specifications for the app, any services that you are going to provide. It provides an opportunity for you to put together a delivery schedule detailing the different steps of deliverables and expected dates for those steps to be completed. It gives you your options in terms of payment, whether it will be payment for the design and developing the application, whether it be a flat fee payment or an hourly rate payment, as well as if you would like to require a deposit and the amount and the details of that deposit, timeline for payment as well. In the section that covers the timeline for payment, you have the options to lay out a schedule that's either based on date triggers or certain completions of deliverables during the process, and then to be paid either a flat amount or a percentage of the flat fee at those designated trigger points. This scope of services gives you an opportunity to detail any expenses for which you will be reimbursed, as well as your hourly rate for any out-of-scope work. Second to last, this scope of work details the support period, the amount of time after you've provided the final application that you will be available to make updates, to troubleshoot, to answer questions with regards to the application without additional compensation. And then finally, you have an opportunity to provide any modifications to the master terms that are going to be specific to this scope of work. So this is a brief overview of the Master Application Development Agreement. If you decide to purchase this agreement, you will receive a PDF as well as an editable Word document that you can modify as necessary for your business. And I want to thank you for joining us in the Contract Bank. And once again, I am your business attorney, Roxanne Smithers.